Mm-hmm. All right, I'm gonna hold it.
You're in the force ball in there.
Got one more coming?
Yep, there it is. Where you want me?
Wherever. I don't know whose this is. It's going over here. Picture yourself in this situation. Thousands of feet up in the air, hugging onto the side of a mountain. No rope, no harness. Only thing holding you from certain death at the bottom is your own strength and dexterity. What I'm talking about here is called free solo rock climbing, which is just one of many different types of rock climbing, and in my opinion, the most dangerous. But what exactly is free solo climbing, and how is it different from other types of rock climbing? Well, that's precisely what I plan to tell you in the next few minutes here. I'll go over the climbing system and the various pieces of equipment it takes to implement such a system, along with some other different variations of rock climbing. Climbing is something that's always fascinated me, even at a very young age. I've gone to the gym countless times and climbed and belayed for many different people. And I've even had the opportunity of climbing on an actual mountain in Red River Gorge in eastern Kentucky, which is known internationally for its climbing routes. But in order to explain the different styles of rock climbing, we first need to have a general understanding of the rock climbing system and some of the basic equipment that is used. Now, there are 4 essential pieces of rock climbing gear for most types of rock climbing: a rope, a harness, carabiners, and a belay device. Now, the rope that is used is a special type of rope called dynamic rope, which is much more elastic than a normal static rope. If static rope were to be used and the climber were to fall, when the rope catches tension, you could violently slam into the rock or even dislocate part of your body. The harness is pretty straightforward, wraps around the waist and thighs and gives the place for the rope to attach to you. Carabiners are small hook-like devices that allow you to attach various parts of the system together, both easily and safely. And lastly, we have the belay device, which is pictured here, which is a very, very important piece. It uses friction and leverage to help stop the rope if you were to fall. There are many different types of belay devices, but they all work essentially the same. They catch the rope from allowing any more rope to go through the system, which would have you fall. Now that we know some of the basic equipment is used, we can talk about how you rock climb in a nutshell. The climber will climb up while the belayer stays at the bottom with the belay device, monitoring the system and catching you if you fall. Now, the climbing system consists of the equipment I've said before and the 2 climbers of the team. It's important to note that both the climbers are part of the climbing system and not just users of it. They each act as a counterweight for the other if one were to fall, which is why it's important to pick a partner that not only you trust, but someone of similar size to you. That way they can catch your weight if you were to fall. Once everyone is tied in, the climber will climb up while the belayer stays at the bottom, pulling out any excess rope and catching them if they were to fall. So now that we know about the various pieces of climbing equipment and the basic technique of rock climbing, we can dive into some of the different variations of rock climbing. The first type is what most people start with, and it's called top rope climbing. The climber has the rope attached going all the way to the top of the route over some permanent anchor and back down to the belayer. As the climber goes up, the belayer pulls out the excess rope, which would catch them if they were to fall. The other type of climbing is called traditional or trad climbing, which in my opinion is real rock climbing. There is no anchor already there, so you have to put them in as you go up the mountain. You can either wedge them into cracks or hammer them into the rock itself. This is called lead climbing when the climber goes up, putting anchors in as they go. Now the belayer has more responsibilities when doing lead climbing. They're not only pulling excess rope out, but actually pushing rope into the system. If too much rope is in the system, the climber would fall, they could get hurt. If not enough is in the system, the climber would be impeded from going any further. The next type of climbing I'll talk about is multi-pitch climbing. Now, multi-pitch climbing is necessary when the route you plan to do is too high for just one section of rope. So what happens is one climber will climb up, and then they will become the belayer at the top, while the next climber climbs up. You'll climb up each section, which is called a pitch. There's no limit to the number of pitches you need. There's as many as you want to do to get to your desired location. Vaulted or sport climbing is very similar to trad climbing, only the anchors are already fixed into the rock, hammered there beforehand. You don't have to worry about all the extra weight of taking all those anchors up with you, so you can focus on more strenuous and challenging rocks or climbs, and maybe even for speed. And lastly, we have the infamous free solo climbing, which I talked about before. Now this is climbing where you just climb up the rock. No harness, no rope, no net, nothing to catch you if you fall.
No brains.
No brains, yes. For obvious reasons, this is clearly the most dangerous of climbing, because if you fall, you die. Now I've only touched the surface of rock climbing and how it's used. It's much more intricate once you get to actually do it yourself. And there are numerous other styles of climbing that I don't have time to mention today. But I encourage you to do some research of your own. Maybe check out a gym, and there's many in Louisville, where you can learn how to lead climb or belay yourself. I enjoy it. It's very adventurous, very fun, and it's a great way to get some exercise. Hopefully now that you understand how the system works, you won't be as intimidated and realize it's not really as dangerous if you do it safely and correctly with the right partner. And lastly, I'll end with a quote by a man named David McCullough Jr. He said, "Climb the mountain not to plant your flag, but to embrace the challenge. Enjoy the air and behold the view. Climb it so you can see the world, not so the world can see you." Thank you.